okay, what we've got here, this is just Pearly Things. She's a grifter and she's using men's rights to make her buck, easy buck. And she's in a debate about child custody with these two, trigonometry. And they're going to call her out. Okay. But first, let's see the hyperbole thing she says that is bad for the men's rights. Any MRA worth his salt will distance himself publicly from Pearly Things.
That's fine. I just think, like, I just prefer more traditional relationships. So
yeah, what she's saying there, she wants a provider husband. That's what she means by traditional.
I just prefer relationships where you're submitting to your husband's authority.
See, she's saying things she knows men want to hear. But there's never been submitting to men's authority, ever. Men have never been in positions of leadership, okay? They've always been providers for the woman.
Okay, but that's great.
Like, yeah.
You know, sign me up.
Yeah.
But
Now, see, trigonometry, I don't trust these guys either. They're not on my side either. If you guys ever see this video, you're not on my side. I wouldn't be signed up for servitude the way you want to, okay?
there are lots of women who don't want that. Shouldn't they be allowed to do that?
Yeah, they can. I mean, I can't take away the vote. It's here.
See, this is what I'm talking about. She's talking about taking away the vote from women. Now, I, as an MRA, have no desire for that. And I would never want to be connected to that. Not the vote, anyway. I mean, people do need to have limitations on what they can do. We can't just do whatever we want. But don't try and connect me up with what this woman is saying. And she is not going to suffer the fallout. She is harming the men's rights movement by putting herself out there as a spokesperson for it when she isn't one. Now, these guys are going to call her out. Listen to this.
Just,
Pearl, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
There's a combination of things going on here.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I actually think some, not all, but some of the things you say objectively are not untrue. And what I mean by that is they're true, right? But also, is there a part of you that's saying them in the way that you're saying them because you're being a bit of a troll?
See how she laughed there? It wasn't like a ha-ha, like that's preposterous. She laughed in a way that said, uh-oh, these guys caught me. You're right. She's being a troll. You know why? She says inflammatory things that get her attention. And of course, it damages the MRM because the MRM doesn't distance themselves from this woman.
Yeah.
Am I saying them?
The way that you're saying them.
I do say things for comedic effect at times.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a duck and dodge. She's not saying them for comedic effect. She's saying it to gain attention.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't say things I don't believe. I change my opinion sometimes. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, but
He
what
said
I mean,
yes. He said no.
he said yes as in just to go along with it. But
Yeah.
no, it doesn't answer my question, because I guess what I'm asking you is, are you saying things in a more incendiary, inflammatory way because you know that gets attention?
You mean like?
Exactly. And it's a rhetorical question for me because I know that's exactly what she's doing.
Calling women whales?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to bypass talking about women. This is a debate about child custody, which is very important to men. And they're going to bog this down. Shame on trigonometry, too. They're going to bog this down with the talk about fat shaming, right? I'm going to bypass that.
But so to go back to the comment when you said I agreed, what I was saying was, yes, I see your point, but so for instance with Wales, and I'm approaching this from a comedian's point of view, okay, in that I know the language that I use will elicit a particular response, and that words will elicit a particular response. My choice of language will elicit a particular response from an audience member, depending on what button I want to push. Are you as methodical as that?
No. I just say
Can
shit.
you not tell?
Look, yeah, I just say shit I think is funny. I mean, true, right? But funny.
She's not methodical because she doesn't have to be. She's a woman. She can throw whatever she likes out there, as inflammatory as it is, and she's not going to get any blowback. Her damaging the MRM doesn't affect her as a woman. That's why she doesn't have to be methodical at all.
And I think it's funny to call them whales. Yeah. And when I call them whales, I'm not talking about, all right, because this is the other thing. Well, what about the nice whales? Okay.
They will get past that too. I don't care about the whales. This is supposedly about child custody, right? Now, she's going to admit that her position is really self-serving.
Like, yeah, women shouldn't vote.
I just think the outcomes would be better. Like, I feel like if we took, I'm a conservative, so if we took out the, it would just be, it would go my way more. Yeah.
There you go. It'd go my way more. That's what her stance is. That's what her principles are.
Would go. What is your way? What does that mean?
I'm more conservative.
Okay, but what does that mean?
In the U.S., Republicans winning.
Okay.
I mean, that is factually correct, by the way.
Yeah, I'm like, personally, so me, I'm like, I think
that was a dodge, the Republicans winning. That still doesn't say what she's looking for, does it?
The outcomes would be better for America if it was more Republican. So I'll take one for the team, guys. I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you.
This woman does not sacrifice anything. She does not take one for any team. She's not on my team. I don't think these guys are really on my team either, because I think they're trad cons. But this woman is not on my team. She's against my team. This woman is as vile as any feminist. I want you guys to know that.
And what does that mean, the outcomes?
The outcomes. Well, one thing I would like to see is the laws change in terms of child custody. I think it should be 50-50, or maybe even take the government out of it. I mean, I'm not like a diehard politics person, to be honest. So I'm pro-life.
There you go. This is nonsense. If she's talking about men's issues, she's talking about politics. There's no way around that. Men's issues are political issues.
So I think that would be a better outcome for me, pro-gun.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay a lot of taxes. So take out the taxes, take out the government benefits.
So basically what you're saying is
this is nonsense. This woman is full of shit. If you take out the taxes, then all the benefits women get from government would go with them. So she's not against taxes.
women vote left, and because you're on the right, you'd like women not to be able to vote.
I think the outcomes would be better if women didn't vote, for me.
Yeah, there you go. You see, she dodged it again. So because it doesn't work for you, you want women not to have to vote. And she said just the outcomes would be better. Yeah, for her. So she's not for men in any way. She has a personal stake in this, and she wants male providers, and she wants to silence the women who are making it worse for her. These women that are making it worse for her, they also want male providers, by the way. It's just that they're too male hostile to not trip things up.
But, and also, like, women are just more swayed by, like, media. So we make 70 to 80% of consumer buying decisions.
Yeah.
So I just feel like women, like, we're just not as logical. Where men go off of, like women, we vote based on how we feel.
This is nonsense. Men also vote on how they feel. Women are not more emotional than men. They simply don't hold down principles. That's a very important distinction.
Where men will look at, like, the pros and the cons of something. So
she's making good points, mate.
it's like, okay, we don't even know what we want for dinner. Okay, we don't even know what we want for dinner. Do you think we should pick the leader of the free world? And they'll be like, well, not all women. Okay.
But that's what she's trying to do when she wants to take the vote away from these left-wing women. You know, this woman wants to her decisions, what she wants to be spoken for. So she's couching it in terms that men will like.
I think I know more successful women than most. Just being in that line of work, I know a lot of women that have done well. I had a pro volleyball contract offered. I know a lot of women.
Okay, this is unimportant too. Now he's going to call her out on something else.
But I think it's been by, you know, we call the show trigonometry.
Yeah.
But even by our standards, this has been pretty triggering for a lot of people. However, there's something even more triggering that I do have to ask you about, because in between the time that we booked you to come on the show and you actually coming on the show, you had a guy called Nick Fuentes that you interviewed.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah. And then you did an interview with this guy. Like, this is not a guy we would ever have on because he's a racist, Holocaust denying piece of shit as far as I'm concerned. But you had him on, and then you took that interview down and apologized. So what happened with that whole thing?
Oh, I can't talk too much. There's like legal things going on.
There's legal things going on.
Yeah, there's not with Nick, but
Is it that she can't talk too much, or she doesn't want to discuss this? Right.
but there's I have a video coming out about that whole thing. So
You do?
you guys have
Okay, if she has a video, she could say it now. So she's avoiding answering this question.
to wait for the video.
Well,
But I will say I did not find Nick to be racist. My staff actually did not find him to be racist.
wait, he was talking to an Italian girl next to you and saying that she shouldn't have a black boyfriend or something along those lines.
Okay, then she just told a bold-faced lie, everyone, that I didn't find him racist, my staff didn't find him racist, and he's pointing out something that she knows about this guy, his opinions. Okay? So she is telling a bold-faced lie at this point. This woman is a grifter.
He doesn't believe in. See, I don't really want to go into like the race mixing stuff too much.
No, but you just
No, she doesn't. She wants to avoid this conversation because he's exposing her for what she is.
said he wasn't being racist, and I watched him be racist on your show.
Well, I mean, to me, he says the same things that like there's a lot of people that think like that. When
But doesn't make it less racist just because other people think it.
you could say that, but to me, it's like, how do I put it?
No, he can say it. He is saying it, and it's a fact.
His argument is more about culture. It's easier if you date someone in your culture.
No, this guy they're referring to as a racist. Period. There's nothing to debate here.
You'd have to watch the full thing, but was like being a bit like combative to him, and to me, he was just like kidding. But yeah,
He did say, I am a bit racist, even in that. And in fact, in your apology, you said that he said racist things.
Well,
She's really stuck here. She apologized, so she admits it. And now she's trying to renege. This is a 100% pure grifter, everybody. And the MRM should be saying publicly, not just avoiding her, saying publicly that this woman does not speak for us.
There's a video coming out about all of that, but you'll see. It's coming out.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm asking you is because it's kind of like a big deal that you had this guy on. Do you see what I'm saying? He is incredibly toxic.
Again, she is not going to suffer from this. Do you understand that? Her harming men's rights will not affect her in a negative way. That's why she had this guy on. She knows it's going to get lots of views, and that was the purpose for her.
Just telling you my personal experience with him. We filmed hours and hours and hours of footage with him. There was that one to me, if you watch the full clip, it puts it in a little bit of context. Yeah. But he was really polite. He showed up on time. Like
He also
and honestly, he did a panel and he spoke about his opinions on race mixing, and a lot of people agreed with him.
Okay, but that doesn't change whether it's racist or not, right? But what I'm getting
Do you think it's racist to because I'm curious.
Yeah.
Do you think it's racist if I'm Irish and I say I want to date someone that's Irish? Do you think that's racist?
No, but if I say to you, you're Irish, therefore you shouldn't date a black man, that is racist, yeah.
Yeah, called out. She's really stuck here. And you know something? Let me take a look at this. This is on her channel, everybody. So this woman has no care about how she looks. Can you imagine? This woman put this on her channel. This isn't very bright of you, Pearly Things.
If you're Irish, and because when he spoke about it on the show, it was more about culture than race.
But to me, that
No, it isn't. It was what he said. If he's quoting this man perfectly right, it's 100% about race, not culture.
doesn't really work as an argument, Paul. So I'll give you an example. I'm half Latin American. I take after my dad's Irish side. If I date a Jamaican woman, Jamaica and Venezuela have a very similar culture. We're culturally very similar. We have the same food, the same religion, whatever else. So to me, that argument doesn't work. Do you see what I'm saying?
Wait, Venezuela and what?
And Jamaica. So Venezuela's at the top of South America,
I
and
see.
Jamaica is all Trinidad, which is literally, you see it over the water.
Yeah, well, it's just when he was talking about how he wanted to date an Italian woman, like versus, like he even said he wouldn't want to date a British girl, he'd want to date an Italian woman. So it's like, how is he a white supremacist?
No,
if he
he's
wanted-
allowed to date who he wants,
Yeah.
but him telling your Italian friend she shouldn't be dating a black man, that's the racist part, don't you think?
Okay, this woman, if she wanted to save any kind of face, would say, yeah, that was a mistake for me having him on. And we don't share that view. But her making excuses like she's doing is exposing her for what she is.
I'd have to remember what he said in the clip, but maybe, yeah, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm asking you, because you do have controversial guests, as we do, and there's nothing wrong with talking to people who are controversial, but Nick Fuentes is a very different kettle of fish, as we say here, right?
Yeah, my opinion is that he was polite overall. He was a good guest.
He was
His politeness has nothing to do with what his stances are, right? So all she's saying is he was good to me, so that's all that matters. Like I said, this woman has zero principles. Like, that's why I keep mentioning you guys. It's not that men are less emotional than women. Men are completely emotional creatures and often vote with their emotions. It's just that it's a question of principles. Very few men have it, and zero women have it, from what I see.
also denying the Holocaust, from what I remember.
Look, I'm not with that. Keep me out of that one. I'm not with the race. Like, that's not my thing, but I just think people are allowed to have their opinions. So if he has crazy opinions, let him have his opinions. And I think he should be allowed to talk about it on a podcast.
But isn't it also the duty, Pearl, of the person interviewing them to push back on those opinions when they come up and actually challenge them and investigate them and to basically push back on it?
Yeah, I mean, we could do another show where we push back more. It's not the end all be all.
But surely isn't that the risk? Isn't that?
I wanted to do like one with Dr. Umar, but he didn't want to come. Sad.
Who's Dr. I don't know who that is.
Dr. Umar has like the same opinions as Nick. Like, he doesn't believe in race mixing too. He's just black.
Yeah.
That's like a common, yeah.
Yeah, there are some people who believe that, sure.
Yeah.
But you know, when you were talking about the Holocaust with him, he was saying it's like slavery, it got embellished, and you were sort of going, I can see your point. And that's why I found a bit confusing, because then in your apology you said
There's nothing to be confused about, pal. I don't know these guys' names, trigonometry name, but look, pal, this woman wants to be friendly to this guy. That's it. There's nothing to be confused about. Okay? She doesn't have a dog in this race other than this guy's going to get her channel views. Do you understand that?
said, well, I wasn't really educated on these things.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're kind of taking that back
Again,
now.
there's a statement coming out on everything, so you guys just have to wait for it.
Yeah.
So again, there's no reason for them to wait for anything. They're asking you a question that you can answer now. So this is her avoiding answering it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
From our perspective, we're kind of saying to you what we thought you might have said to him, which is if a guest says or does something controversial, you kind of want to ask and find out why they've done that. And we have to make, by the way, if this is coming across as confrontational, that's not the intention at all, because whenever I see a guest not be challenged enough on someone's show, I often think there, by the grace of God go I, because we've had people on the show who've said controversial things, and I've sort of missed the moment. And I kind of didn't challenge them enough, and I felt bad about it afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, because you're not a political person, you might not. There was a guy called Darren Grimes.
She is a political person. She's using politics. Come on, dude.
Who had a guy called Dr. David Starkey on, and he said something about how, of course, slavery wasn't genocide, otherwise there wouldn't be so many damn blacks in the West. Right. And that got picked up by all the media, and they all had to go at him. And I just saw a fairly young, inexperienced interviewer in Darren fail to challenge someone who he looked up to and respected on what was just a bad phrasing more than anything. Right. So I totally understand why you may have missed something or not have jumped in on something that you maybe felt that you should have jumped in on. But the reason that Francis and I would
This guy's being far too charitable to this fraudster here.
never have Nick Fuentes on is precisely because he says all that shit all the time. So if you were to actually challenge him on some of his abhorrent views, you'd spend the entire 3 hours doing that.
Did you watch the full video?
I watched some of it, not the full video. Yeah.
Okay. I did challenge him at points of it.
Okay, well,
So-
tell us about
Yeah,
that.
tell us.
I mean, we had a whole panel on race mixing.
Yeah.
And like we had like that was why he came out. Like the political stuff was just because he was there. Like so I did a one-on-one as like the reason I brought
Didn't notice she's prancing and dancing now. She didn't say directly how she challenged this guy, because guess what? He probably didn't challenge this guy. She brought up the reason he was willing to come on is that she was going to give him, or she did give him, a platform to spew his terrible opinions.
brought him on was I saw him on No Jumper, like talking about race mixing. And I've heard that point of view, but it's usually like not people look different that have that point of view usually. So like I've heard it, but I've just never heard it like that, I guess. So
Yeah.
we just brought him on a panel.
Yeah, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. And this is why men should stop falling for the racist thing, because women use the race card to attack men when they themselves don't really care about the racism issue whatsoever.
Panel just like about race mixing, and they did a whole panel on it.
But then he was denying the Holocaust.
You know, that was crazy. Yeah, that was.
But that's what he does. That's why I'm asking you.
Well,
why...
but we brought him on to talk about race mixing. That's what we brought him on, because it's a relationship show. And then we
Yeah.
just interviewed him because he was there.
But there will be people.
If this is a relationship show, why you care about child custody, right? That's a men's issue. There's always this Mott and Bailey thing going on, where she pretends she stands for something important and then just jumps back and says, well, I'm just a comedian, or something along those lines.
Who will say, well, if you're going to bring that person on, and look, again, this isn't to, misrepresent or do any of those types of things. The reason we have this show is so we can talk and have honest conversations, because part of this is for me to clarify my thinking about different issues. That's why we do the show. But part of it is also when you bring someone.
The difference between these guys and her is these guys have to be careful. They want to make a show, but they can't just have anyone on saying whatever they want. It'll damage their show. This woman, being a woman and not having a dog in the race, doesn't have to worry about that. The more inflammatory and incendiary the guest, the better for her.
On, you can't also ignore that element of it. Do you see what I mean?
I just don't know what you mean by ignore.
No, because if you're not addressing the fact that
She's gaslighting these guys. She's gaslighting, right?
he's a Holocaust denier, then you're
Well, I mean, I
ignoring
don't-
that.
I
Do you
don't-
see what I mean?
I mean, I don't agree that the Holocaust didn't happen.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying-
That's reassuring. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I mean, I was just listening to him.
Yeah.
And I think you're allowed to listen to people that
Pearly Things, you are coming off as completely pathetic. And you put this on your own channel. Holy cow.
You might not agree with. And I think as women, we're more agreeable than men. So a lot of
This is a feminist lie, she told it. All you guys who think this woman is for men, she just told a feminist lie. Women are not more agreeable than men. They love drama. Matter of fact, so many arguments between men and women are because the woman starts it. They love drama. They are not agreeable.
times you might take it as me agreeing, but
Don't mistake being a social chameleon with being an agreeable person.
no, I didn't.
Well, you did say, so it's kind of like slavery, it's been embellished.
I was talking about how people use atrocities to control people, and I was
Yeah.
quoting Thomas Sowell, who's a Black author, who said
I'm
the
very
same
familiar. I'm a big
thing.
fan of Thomas Sowell.
Yeah.
Well, not me, whatever your name is. Thomas Sowell is another pull yourself up by your bootstrap guy. He's another, I've got mine, you get yours. So he is anything but a hero, as far as I'm concerned. And it's very telling that this guy would say that about Thomas Sowell.
So I was quoting Thomas Sowell and speaking about his ideas if people watch the full interview.
Yeah.
And I said that in the interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And I was talking about how people use an atrocity to control people.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, but you don't think that's what happened with the Holocaust?
It sounded like it based on what he was saying, but
He's
don't-
a well-known Holocaust denier. Of course it would sound like that.
That's where I was feeling.
So-
me
sorry,
finish.
sorry,
If you
sorry,
let me
forgive me.
finish. At the time, that's what I was talking about. It sounded like some of Thomas Sowell's ideas. But do I think that the Holocaust
Really, so Thomas Sowell's idea is to deny the Holocaust.
didn't happen? No.
Mm.
Then that's crazy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, I guess, what do you think your responsibility is when you bring on controversial guests onto the?
She doesn't have to deal with responsibilities, pal. She, as a woman, has her life on easy mode. She doesn't have to deal with any responsibilities or any fallout. This is what you're doing to her here is the worst thing she's ever had to deal with.
The show. Do you have any responsibility? What do you believe?
For the guests?
No, not for the guests.
Mhm.
For the content that you put out, Pearl.
Yeah, I'm responsible for all the content I put out.
You're responsible for all the content that you put out. And do you now look at that and think you shouldn't have done that? You made a mistake. You made an error. What
I don't regret having someone controversial on. If I had to do it again, I would have maybe had someone on the opposite end of the argument that could push back. But how I probably would have did it if I had to do it again, one full interview with both of them, let them talk, let them say what they're going to say, and then bring them together.
So who would you have on the other end? So you'd have
Dr. Umar.
but that's not. But those are two people who share the same the same viewpoint. It's just one happens to be white, one happens to be black. That's not. That's playing. Do you see? That's kind of identity politics.
Yeah, but then we did a whole panel with people that disagreed with him, so we did do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, so she gave a platform to a racist Holocaust denier. Right. And now she ducks and dodges the responsibility. These guys called her out. I hope you realize some people, men of principles, will recognize exactly what you're about, just pearly things. And of course, notice her comment section, of course, are full of guys who back her up. Right. The only thing Pearl is doing wrong here is apologizing. Never apologize who demands censorship. They're not demanding censorship. Moral. They're calling her out. And she was embarrassed by trigonometry here. And if they did this to me, I'd want to crawl in the hole. But she, being a typical fraudster, has zero shame. Let me get her face up here. This typical fraudster has zero shame, and she's not going to suffer any real blowback from this. But she will and is harming the MRM. The MRM has to publicly deny this woman. Thank you.